This is how I bewitched the woman that I was working for in Joburg. I used to be a maid, but eventually I got married to her South African husband. Some of you might wonder, why is it that someone who used to be a maid can end up being the wife? It is because of the charms that I was using, and I was not an evil-hearted person. People around me, they are the ones that made me to be the person that I am right now. Hello, Brother Nashi, and greetings to all the listeners that listen to your channel. I have started by properly greeting everyone because in our African culture, respect and manners, they come first, no matter what story a person has to tell. Just in case those that would want to judge me, you will judge me, but I would have greeted you first. People who see me today, some they are even surprised when they hear me speaking Shona. They think that I am South African. There was this other time when I was just walking around in the gated estate where I am staying, and there were these guys, they were from Zim. So they were busy gossiping because they were renovating a house in the street where I stay. So as I was walking around, then they started to gossip about me, and I greeted them in Shona. They were surprised and they were embarrassed when I spoke with them in Shona. They thought that I was South African. To be where I am right now, Brother Nashi, it did not happen overnight, but it was by the grace of God. I am someone that might be cruel at times, but I also have a very kind heart. Back in the rural areas where I come from in Zim, I have opened a small community crash back in my home village where those that are really poor, they can just pay half price. I am doing this to help my community. If you ask my community, they will tell you that I, Melissa, I am a God-fearing and a kind-hearted woman. I am a nice person at heart, Brother Nashi, but the world is what made me to be what I am right now. The world made me to become a cruel person. I did this so that I could just survive. The circumstances that surrounded me, they made me to be this kind of a woman that I am today. If anyone wants to judge me for what I eventually did to my late South African boss, they must first judge the poverty, the abuse, and the cruelty that shaped my life. Let me take you back to how I grew up in my country. My real name, as I have said, it is Melissa. I was raised in a village. It was one of the most underdeveloped, forgotten rural areas, which is close to the Mozambican border. In our village, there was no electricity. There was no running water. There was nothing. And we did not even know what a car really looked like. Here and there, maybe once a year, that was when the politicians, when they wanted people to vote for them, they would come to our rural areas, and then we would go and we would be looking at the car as if it was something that was out of this world. As for my parents, I can't say much about them. My parents, they were so poor. We survived on small scale farming. We could not even farm and go to the market. All that we did was to just plant the crops that we needed, maize and vegetables that we ate from January to December. Poverty was like a family member of ours. In our house, bread was just a luxury. Here in South Africa, I even laugh at myself that there are times when I feel like when I think about eating bread, I feel like vomiting because I'm so used to eating bread almost on a daily basis. Back home, bread was for the rich. We could only know what bread tasted like on Easter Sunday or on Christmas Day. This is what my dad used to do. On Christmas morning, he will take one of my brother. Then my father would walk maybe for 2 hours going to buy a loaf of bread because there was no spaza shop in the village that used to stock bread. Who was going to buy your bread? So you needed to walk for about 2 hours going to the next location where they had a shop which sold bread. So my dad and my brother, they would walk for hours and hours. It was really funny. They would buy a single loaf of bread and a sachet of milk, and then they would come back and we would prepare tea. We would celebrate Christmas by drinking tea with sugar and eating maybe a slice of bread. For the rest of the year, our life, it was the same: pap and vegetables, pap and vegetables in the afternoon as well as at night. When I was in my teenage years, when I started to go on my monthly period, guess what my mom did? When I told her that, Mom, this is what is happening to me, I see that there is blood that is coming out of me. So my mom then took me to the bushes. We went to this other particular tree, and then that was when she showed me how to take the leaves, the ones that were broad enough to soften the leaves without breaking them, and then to use them as if they were my sanitary pads. Despite all of these hardships, I was someone that was intelligent in school. I loved learning, but my parents, they could not afford fees to send me to a secondary school. So I was forced to drop out. I taught myself the English that I speak today. One will think that I even went to university. No, I did not go to university. There was a teacher in that area where we were staying in the rural areas. Whenever he would return back to his place, when he came back, he always had novels. He would give me a novel and I would read that novel over and over again. So my gateway out of the village, it came through a bad thing that had happened in the family. I had an auntie who had left the village and had gone to the capital city to work as a maid. She completely cut off all communication. One afternoon, that was when we were surprised to see a car that was parked outside of our yard. We did not even had a gate that was wide enough for a car to get in. So it was the people that she was working for. They had driven her back to the village because she was so thin and she was critically ill, asking my family where were her relatives, because they could not take care of her anymore because she had been sick for the longest time. We took my auntie in and then we were with her until she passed away. Before her employers left, they said that they wanted to come back to collect me so that I could replace my auntie and work for them as their domestic worker in the capital city. My mother, she cried with gratitude. She believed that this was God's breakthrough and we were going to kick out that family member called poverty. We were never going to starve anymore in the family. Shortly after my auntie had passed away, those people, they sent their driver who came and collected me. I went and I started to stay in the capital city working as a maid. But those people, even though they were Christians, they were churchgoers, but they had hearts that were made out of stone. They treated me as if I was an animal. They refused to let me drink water from the same glass cup as the rest of the family or eat from the same plates with them. They gave me a plate and a cup, and they said that these two items, they are the ones that you are supposed to use. You should never touch what belongs to us. You touch them only when you are preparing food for us or when you are washing the dishes. The most humiliating thing was the food. I was forced to cook my own daily meal in the same black pot that they used to boil food for their dogs. They had 4 dogs. So whenever they were eating, I would be sitting on the floor waiting for them to finish eating. Once they were done, then they will say that you can go and you can take the leftovers. Then I'll start to eat. And you will not eat in peace. Once you sit down, one of their child will say that, Auntie, I want water. The other one, Auntie, I want you to make popcorns for me. And you leave your food and then you start to prepare, even if it is dessert, for them. And when I was working for this family, it was that time when people were starving to death in our country. Food was nowhere to be found. Everyone was just suffering. So they did not want to waste their food on their maid. There was this other girl. She was also suffering the way that I was. She was working in the same area. She was a maid. And then me and her one day, we were busy chatting and talking. And then she said that she was thinking of going to South Africa because she heard that in South Africa, one can even get a job and you can be able to take care of yourself rather than the way that we were being mistreated by the people that we were working for. I finally made up my mind. But the problem was that I did not have enough money to be smuggled into South Africa. What I did, Brother Nashi, was this. One afternoon, whilst I was cleaning my boss's master bedroom, I saw a nice watch. I thought that this watch, it was not even expensive. It was a Rolex golden watch. I slipped it into my bra and then I went into the city. I knew this other Nigerian guy who was operating a jewelry shop. So I went there and I asked him how much the watch was worth. And he said that it was worth nothing, but he just wanted to give me a favor. Only later, when I came to South Africa, I was shocked when I heard that a Rolex watch, it is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. It was still brand new, and you could see that it seemed as if it had original gold coating. This Nigerian dealer, he took advantage of my ignorance, and then he gave me 2,000 rands for that Rolex watch. It was still brand new. And then this same money that I had gotten, I then bought some food and I sent it to the rural areas, which meant that I was left with really nothing. We got onto a truck and we traveled from Harare headed for Musina. I did not tell my friend that I did not have enough money as the money that had been suggested by the truck driver to smuggle us into South Africa. When we were in Beitbridge, that was when the guy explained how he was going to smuggle us into South Africa. They realized that I did not have enough money. That was when they left me in Beitbridge. My suffering started, Brother Nashim. I looked for a place to stay. So it was not like a nice place. You will just stay in the same room, maybe with 10 other women. Everyone had to pay something each and every night. I was surviving on takeaways. The little money that I had, I was using it to buy takeaways and for accommodation. I then met some people that said that they were going to cross the border going to South Africa through the Limpopo River. So I paid the Gumagumas. They were the ones that were going to help us to cross into South Africa. We walked all night until we reached the Limpopo River. Once we were on the South African border, out of nowhere, there were some soldiers that just surrounded us and they told us to lie down on the ground, pointing their guns at us. And then they threw us into the police vans and they deported us back to our country. It happened so fast. The money that I had given to those Amagumagumas, and they did not get us safely into Musina as they had promised us. There was no refund. So when I was in Beitbridge, I started to cry. You know, when you do not have any hope at all, you don't care about people, you sit down and you start to cry. I could not go back to Harare because I was afraid that my bosses, maybe they had gone to the police and they were waiting to arrest me. I then said, what am I going to do? And it was so painful because back in those days in Beitbridge, there was no electricity. At night, you would see the difference. You could notice the difference on the South African side. You would see the lights at night in Musina, but in Beitbridge, it would be dark when it was at night. So I would sit and I would be looking at South Africa and my heart would be filled with pain that it had rejected me and I did not have anywhere to turn to. One day I just sat down, even though I was starving. I said that I can't return back to Zim, to poverty. I'll stay here in Beitbridge and see and find a way to go to South Africa. I was stuck at the border, no money, no food. And as a woman, that was when I had an idea. I said that, but I have a private part that most men would be willing to pay some money just to get inside of that private part. I I am going to become a prostitute. So you know that in Beitbridge, there are trucks 24/7 that are going into South Africa, going out of South Africa, thousands of them. And they were ladies already that I had seen that were selling their bodies to the men that were truck drivers. I began selling myself to those truck drivers with the help of this other prostitute. So I did this for 6 months. I lived as a prostitute in Beitbridge. I was making good money, but even though I was making good money, I did not forget my dream of going to South Africa. So one night I met a cross-border truck driver. He was a vendor man from South Africa. Brother Nashi, when this man said that he wanted to book me for the night, I looked at him. We spoke in the afternoon. I saw that he was extremely ill. You could even tell by his skin that this man, he was gone. He was just surviving, waiting for the day that he was going to die. Even the way that he would cough, you would be talking to him and he would start coughing during the conversation, leaving you hanging. He would cough for more than a minute. I knew that this man, he was carrying HIV, but then he said to me that he could assist me if I was going to give it for him for free. He would smuggle me into South Africa. Brother Nashi, I just wanted to be with a person that would make me to feel safe, because he said that he was going to drop me off in Venda and then I would find my way, because I wanted to go to Joburg. So I agreed. He was driving a totliner and he took me at the back of the trailer, and then inside there were some spare tires. There were a lot of things that were in there. He told me to find a place where I could hide. So I then got in at the back of the totliner and I got inside them. On the Zimbabwean side, Brother Nashi, it was so easy and it was very quick. When we were on the South African side of the border, all the trucks were being delayed. I waited and I waited, even though it was at night, but I started to feel so much heat. I think that I fainted because I was inside the old tires that were in that trailer. And then we were out of the border and he opened up his trailer and he let me out. And then I went into the cabin with him. He drove until he found a safe place for us to stop. And then he said to me, I want to sleep with you. And I asked him if he had any condoms at all, fearing that he was going to infect me. He said, no, I don't have any condom. Let us just do it like that. Brother Nashim, this man, he came on top of me. He started to sleep with me raw. He was even coughing when he was on top of me. And I was even crying, knowing that this man could potentially infect me with HIV. Later on, when I came to Randfontein, that was when I discovered that I was HIV positive, and I suspect that this man was the one that infected me with HIV. He left me off, and when he left me off, Brother Nashi, in Joburg, I did not know anyone in Joburg, but as someone that had worked as a prostitute before, I knew that the safest place that I could go and stay, even though I had money, was a guest house. But the closest guest house to the place where this truck driver had dropped me off, it was pretty expensive. My money, it ran out only after 1 week. That was when I realized that there were a lot of men that were coming day and night to stay at that guest house, and they would chill outside. And then I started to go outside wearing these clothes that made those men want to sleep with me. I would pretend as if I was just a desperate woman who wanted sex, but I would charge a guy to sleep with me. Eventually, the guest house management, they caught on with my prostitution operation at their guest house, and they asked me to leave. Fortunately, before they kicked me out, I had slept with this other Zimbabwean engineer, so he did not know that I was a prostitute. I just lied to him that I had came from Zim and I was desperate. I did not know where else to go to. He took me in. He was staying in Randfontein. He was a structural engineer. He used to go around South Africa assisting with some projects. He thought that I was just an innocent woman who was still young, who was ready for marriage. And he said that he wanted to marry me. He would save for the lobola bride price while we were staying together. All that he saw was my beauty, but he did not know that I had survived as a prostitute for a very long time, and he was not going to change me. He would go to KZN maybe for 2 or 3 months, leaving me, his wife, at home in Randfontein. So once he would have left, I would then open the doors to every man that wanted to sleep with me and he had money. I would go to the tavern and guys would buy alcohol for me and they would sleep with me. Any guy that wanted my attention, I would give them attention in exchange for money. When my engineer new husband would come back home, I would pretend as if I was someone that was not even the cheating type. Eventually, he came back without alerting me, and he found a man on top of me in our bedroom. He just threw everything outside and he told me that he did not want to see me. By that time, Brother Nash, I think in Randfontein, I had slept with about 50 men. I did not care. You see, these men, what they do is that when they see a very beautiful woman with nice curves, they would force to sleep with you without any condoms. So I did not care if a guy would force me. Let's say that a guy is on top of me and will be like, Melissa, you're too beautiful. I want to do this without a condom. I'll just say, sure, whatever, do whatever that you want. I did not care. Eventually, I realized that I did not have a place now to stay. I was just walking around in Randfontein when I eventually met my madam, my late madam boss, who was called Lebo. As I was walking around in Randfontein, I was looking for a guy that would take me in, saying that he wants to sleep with me and I can become his wife, whilst I was looking for something else to do. That lady, I met her, she was driving a BMW. She just stopped her car and she looked at me and she asked me where I was headed to. That was when I started to cry and I told her that I was staying with an abusive husband. So I was just moving around looking for a job. She told me that she would drop me off in Soweto, for she had a house there, an RDP house that once belonged to her auntie that was in Soweto. She then took me into her car and she said that she would start by seeing what kind of a person that I was. She wanted me to look after that house. She already had tenants that were staying at her RDP house, even though she was staying in the estates at the house that I am staying at right now before she had passed away. The moment that I started to stay at that house, as someone that likes to cook, to do business, I saw that there was an opportunity at that place because there were a lot of students that stayed in that street. And as I knew very well that students, they hate cooking. They would rather buy some fast foods. That was when I told you that I could actually start making money by selling some quarters. And then instead of her doing what we had promised each other, she had said that she would assist me in that business. But my brother, all of a sudden, she just changed her mind. And then she said that the quarter business, it was for herself. She had bought the equipment, therefore the business was hers. She started to make a lot of money because there were a lot of people that would come and buy. I am very good at cooking. From a very young age, I loved cooking. So she would take the money. She would not even pay me a single cent. And what really hurt me was that she would have me at her house from early morning until maybe about 8. I would be working as a maid. From 8 until late in the evening, maybe 10 p.m., I would be in Soweto selling those quarters. There was no off day. There was nothing. She ended up buying a single cab, a Nissan Bakim, that she was using in her catering business. Yet I was the one that had given him the idea of starting a catering business. So one afternoon, whilst I was in the estate, and then I wanted to borrow some money because it was the time for me to be on my period. So I needed some cash and I was desperate. She was with her friend. They were sitting in the living room. They were drinking the tea that I had prepared for them. When I got into the kitchen, they did not even hear me. and I heard them gossiping about me. Your brother Nashi, I was hurt. When someone is saying that you are a hardworking person, they are actually laughing at you. You won't believe what I heard these people gossiping about me. She said that this woman, she is the most stupid Zimbabwean aide that I have ever had. Do you know that I can have her work from morning until I got to bed? She does not complain. She does not know her right. And I am saving a lot of money. As for that shop in Soweto, yo, I'm making a lot of money. I don't even pay her a single extra cent above her basic maid salary. She is working like a donkey. She is working from 5 until 10 every day. No off day. She does not complain. She does not do anything. This one, in her, I have found my own fool, and I am saving a lot of money. They were laughing, comparing me with a former South African maids. And I got outside and I started to cry. I was sitting at the back of the house as I was crying. Brother Nash, I don't know what made me to become so evil. Then I just got up and I pretended as if I did not even hear anything. I remembered another woman whom I had heard of in Randfontein. She got married to a white person. Can you believe that? She chased away a madam boss who was a white woman, and then she got married to the white guy, but she was a sangoma. I went to her and I wanted to know how she had managed to chase away her white madam boss, and she became the madam boss. She told me that she had used love potions on a white guy who was now her husband. I asked him if she could give me the same charms that she had used. She said, unfortunately, I can't help you with those charms, Melissa, because they are very dangerous. I was bored. That was when I returned back home during Christmas. When I returned back home, I had heard about this other traditional healer from a village there in Chirehidzi. I had found out about this healer via Facebook. I went to him and I told her that I wanted to be married to my South African madam boss's husband. I wanted him to fall blindly in love with me. I wanted him to sleep with me, to dump his wife, and just to hurt her because of what she had been doing to me. I was given a love potion to put into his food. And ladies, never allow a maid that you do not trust in your bedroom. Do you know what I used to do whenever my madam boss had gone to work? She was someone that was lazy. She never prepared her bed. Even her own panties, she would leave them in bed. Even if I would see that these people, they made love and they left their panties underneath the blankets, she would just leave everything. Even those soft clothes that a woman can wipe after sex, she would leave them right there, waiting for me to wash them and do everything. I had been given some oils that I was supposed to dip my fingers into the oil as I would be preparing their bed so that they won't have the time to sleep with each other. And then my madam boss's husband will start to look at me. Brother Nashi, these charms, they started to work. My madam boss's husband, he started to look at me, looking at my hips, and I would see that he was lusting after me. One afternoon, when the madam boss had gone out shopping, that was when I saw my madam boss's husband. He walked and he grabbed me and he forced to sleep with me with no condom. He did not know that I was HIV positive. From there on, he became like a sex addict. I lied to him that I was pregnant. He even cried and he said that, thank you for carrying my child. Eventually, my madam boss, she suspected that I was sleeping with her husband. She pretended to go out, and as we were sleeping with each other, she then came back and she saw that I was sleeping with her husband. Brother Nash, I went on my knees and then I pretended as if I was really sorry, but I was just buying some time. I then spoke with my Sangoma back in Zim. She rushed to her shrine and then she tied my madam boss's spirit so that she can forgive me. Once she had forgiven me, that was when I was given an instruction to perform a ritual which I did not know was going to kill my madam boss. My madam boss, she started to become so ill, and I was communicating with the Sangoma. This happened over the next few months. She used to be a healthy person. All of a sudden, it was as if she had some form of cancer that was rapidly spreading. So the relatives, they came and they said that they wanted me to take care of their relative for Levo. When they had taken her to the hospital, the doctors had said that the disease had rapidly spread and they were just waiting for the time that she was going to die. They could only give her pain medication. And as you know that once your relative has gotten to the point whereby they can't even go to the toilet on their own, then you will look for another person that will start to work as their nurse aide. But in this situation, they wanted to save money. Instead, for looking for a professional nurse to come and change her diapers, sometimes when we would make her to wear diapers or just to wash her, to look after him like a child, they then thought of using me, a Zimbabwean, who was even undocumented, like I had heard their relative gossiping about me. Now I was the one that was removing her poop. Brother Nashim, I then received a phone call from the Sangoma, who then told me that this was what he had been told by his ancestors. If Lebo was going to die before we had performed the final ritual, then my dream of being married to her husband, it was going to end in an instant, because a spirit was going to rise as a vengeful ghost and she will haunt me for the rest of my life. I then asked, what is it that I was supposed to do? The Sangoma then said that I was supposed to go into the bedroom where Lewu was sleeping, and I had a scissors that I was hiding in my apron, and then I cut off her hair. She was even thinking that I was just busy doing her hair, yet I was cutting off her natural hair. Rather than I then took the hair and I hid it, and I also removed her panty the day when she started to get really sick. She was wearing this other pink panty, and I removed it and I hid it, just as the Sangoma had instructed me to do. I was supposed to take all of her panties, the ones that she had worn and I had not yet washed them, to hide them, and I was supposed to start wearing them. I was wearing her panties on a daily basis, exchanging the panties with him. And when her husband would look at me, he would look at me and think that it is his own wife. He would not see Melissa, but he would see Lewu. The day that my madam boss was taken to the hospital, I took the panty and I was wearing it, and she passed away. When she passed away, then that was when they started to prepare for her funeral. I was busy in her bedroom. I looked for her bras. I looked for her old clothes, the ones that I had not washed, and I hid them in the room that I was using, for I used to stay at the back room. And when they brought her body from the mortuary, when we were supposed to go to the cemetery to lay her, then I was still wearing that pink panty as I had been instructed by the Sangoma. What I did, Brother Nashim, the time when the family came to collect, according to their culture, the personal belongings, the clothes that belonged to Lewu, you know what I did? I rushed and I went to Ackermans, and I also went to Jet because I was looking for some other G-strings that she used to wear. I did not find them at Ackermans, and I bought those new panties. And when I returned back, I started wearing them one by one, making sure that they become as much dirty as they could. And I even boiled them so that they might look as if they were old. And I just stuffed them into the wardrobe. And when they came, they started to pick her clothes and they took her panties. I don't know what they did with their panties according to their culture, but I had her original panties. And then they sat with me down. I was even crying, pretending as if I was afraid of losing my job since my madam boss was dead. So they sat with me down and they asked me that they wanted me to continue working as a maid because Lewu's kids, they were used to me, and they asked me that I should look after them, to go and fetch them to school and to accompany them when they were going to school. And the husband was going to pay me just like the way that he was paying me when their daughter was still alive. Brother Nashi, that is how I became a stepmom. And I made sure that in front of my husband, who was still my boyfriend, I treated his kids with loving care. And as for him, he became a zombie already because I was wearing the panties that belonged to his late wife. So when he would look at me, he would think that I am Lewu, and I still do this to this very day. When I bath at night, I wear Lewu's old panties maybe for about 30 minutes. Then I take them off just before bed. The way that my husband will sleep with me on that night, he can do me all night. So after my madam boss had passed away, that was when he proposed marriage to me, and I got a spousal visa. Eventually, I then got my South African ID to ensure that I treat my husband very well. I then returned back to Zim, to that same Sangoma. So this Sangoma, she trains women. If a woman does not know how to shake up things in the bedroom, this woman will teach you everything. I went back to the traditional healer, and then she took a traditional reed mat and she laid it on the floor. She undressed me. I was completely naked, and she told me to sleep on my back, but with my buttocks up in the air. So I was lifting my buttocks in the air, and then she stuck some needles into the reed mat, which meant that I had to keep my hips in the air with my legs wide open, rotating my waist. And I was doing this as if a crocodile has caught an animal, the way that a crocodile, after catching an animal and they are busy tearing that animal to pieces, the way that they start to spin in the water, that is how I was supposed to rotate my waist, pretending that a man's manhood is inside of my private part. That, Brother Nashi, because I had never done something like that, once I started to get tired, and when my buttocks, when I would try to rest them on that reed mat, those needles that were sticking out, they would stab my skin so bad, and it would force me to go back into that position until I got used to it. Today, Brother Nashi, when we are in the bedroom, I'm like a bedroom bully to my husband. He cries like a little baby on top of me. The way that I make him feel so good, he will never ever cheat on me. And on top of that, I am using juju. To this very day, brother, I am still wearing what belongs to my madam boss. Whenever I want to get a new hairstyle, I take the hem of my late madam boss, and then I make sure that I find a place in my head where I put just a little bit of it, because it is supposed to be in my head at all the times, so that my husband, when he sees me, he sees his wife in his mind, where he is right now spiritually. Even if he was to hear this story, he will never ever think that it is I that is confessing, because he does not even know that his wife has since passed away. One might ask, Melissa, what made you to be cruel like this to the woman that saved you? It was because of those people that mistreated me all of my life. Do you think that it is normal for you as a maid to share the same food with a dog? The way that I was mistreated is what made me to become the person that I am right now. So if you want to blame me, you can start by blaming those people that were around me. They made me to be this cruel woman that I am. And I want people to learn from my situation to never ever trust a woman that will be in your house, whether she is a maid or she is just a friend. So thank me before you judge me for giving you and sharing my personal story with you. Your dear listeners, right there was a translation of a message that we received, hoping that you were able to understand. What you did was very cruel, my sister. I hope that Lewu is going to come back to haunt you so that you can confess, even by force, to confess to her husband what you have been doing. You need to release that man. Stop treating him like a zombie. Dear listeners, right there was a message that we received. hoping that you learned something from this confession. I'll be back very soon. Today I promise that I'm coming back with another episode.